Well, hello there, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Breaking Barriers interview series, where we get to interview amazing women executive leaders who are just doing phenomenal things in the industry sector in terms of leading, empowering, and just encouraging fellow women leaders. And it's just an honor to have them there to here today to share what I'm here today to share the insights from her journey and so that we can learn from them. And so my name is Saskia Christian. I am the founder of BoostThru's. And so I have with me today, I have the pleasure of hosting today Ms. Kimberly Eckert, and she is the Chief Financial Officer from Nature and Energy. And I'm going to have Kimberly formally introduce herself as we get into this amazing segment. So Kimberly, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. So, Kimberly Eckert, I am, as Saskia mentioned, the Chief Financial Officer at a Santa Clara, California-based startup called Natron Energy. I have been working in the broader natural resources and energy industry for most of my career, and so excited to be in this role and to helping a startup take the next step to growth.
That is excellent. And I do understand a little bit of that world because of my chemical engineering training.
Great.
So I believe, I would be very familiar with that. And it's just a pleasure having someone from the energy industry, give voice to this particular area in terms of empowerment. And
Yes.
so I would like to first get a better understanding of your industry experience and the specific challenge, if you want to highlight any specific challenge you've encountered in terms of cultivating resiliency or emotional intelligence mastery in your world.
Sure. So my experience in natural resources, so I would say I started in earnest in the natural resources industry after business school. Um, so sorry, my computer just tried to make an update. So I started in the natural resources industry in earnest after business school in 2006, 2007, where I joined Deutsche Bank Securities and covered the global metals and mining industry. And so I caught the last end of, or the tail end of the last commodity super cycle when everything was about steel inputs. So, metallurgical coal and iron ore. And then after leaving investment banking, I came to the corporate side, working in finance roles, as well as consulting roles over the course of my career. And slowly have worked my way up to the chief financial officer seat, where I feel like I can bring a broad level of industry experience to a particular role. So, I understand the metals and mining side of the business, where all of our inputs have to come from, as well as all of the downstream impacts from energy generation and now to energy storage. And so, understanding those, both the overlaps between those industries as well as the differences and how you can apply lessons learned across all of those disciplines from a financial perspective.
Wow.
And you wanted me to touch on building emotional resiliency, is
Yeah,
that
so
it?
like cultivating resiliency, by the way, that's an all-encompassing career. It's one of the very few times I've actually heard of a chief financial officer with that bit of, in-depth technical experience. So that's amazing. I'm a technical leader and I really do appreciate that because that's where it
Thank you.
starts.
And I do love the operation side of things. So yeah, I love picking the brains of like, our VPs of operations and my COO. I'm like, now how does this work? And then translating that into, into financial numbers and into an investor story. So yeah, the little
Phenomenal.
things
That's
I know.
awesome. Yeah, so in terms of resiliency, can you maybe highlight a particular area where you've cultivated resilience per se? And
Oh gosh. I mean, it is a career long thing that you have to work on developing. And any type of role that you sit in, whether it's in investment banking or whether it's in the corporate finance side, you are responsible for making, decisions and recommending decisions to your board of directors, for large sums of money. So whether it's like recommending, an M&A transaction or a debt or equity underwriting, or whether it's, simply, recommending, internal financial policies and how you deploy capital throughout a business, and how you think about those return metrics. Um, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage, to be able to stand behind those recommendations, when the financial health of the entity could potentially be on the line if it's not successful. So in terms of developing that resiliency, I guess there's a couple parts to it. One is just on the personal side, and you know what helps is finding a career and a role that you actually enjoy.
Passion. Mm-hmm.
And having a passion for it, so you have that motivation and that drive. And then the other part of that is developing and being confident in your skill set, so that you can get over that imposter syndrome, when you walk into a room, especially when you're at most times, one of either the only female in the room or one of the few females in the room. And so, um, in order, I will say that feeling never goes away. I've heard many, female executives, CEOs of, Fortune 500 companies still talk about that imposter syndrome that they have. But in terms of, developing that emotional resiliency, it's making sure that you're taking the time to develop your skill set and the confidence in your skill set. And then taking a time to reflect, in situations where, okay, this is the recommendation that I made, or this is the pitch that I, put together for my executives, or, for my team, on how we need to proceed. And then reflecting back onto how that actually uh, unfolded, and was it the right decision? And if you take the time to kind of look at, okay, what I recommended we do actually did work, and it was the best outcome that we could have hoped for. That kind of helps build that confidence in terms of that next step forward. So you have that basis of and that track record of success when you walk into the next room or into the next decision point, to present your opinion. Um,
So have you ever felt that, okay, maybe you might have been too hard on yourself in situations where you went in thinking, okay, the financial recommendation or the strategy I'm recommending, it may not be having that much of a buy-in, but then it's like a complete 180 or so in terms of the response you get.
of course, yes. I mean, it's always yeah, women in general, I think, and myself especially, we have this like perfectionist gene, that everything needs to be perfect and we need to know absolutely everything. And
Yes.
so you have to accept that there are going to be some unknowns, and how you develop an approach to deal with those unknowns and mitigate those risks. And so, um, yes, I do have a general sense when I walk into a room still to this day of like, I need to make sure that I have everyone's buy-in before I walk in. And that's not always necessarily the case. You don't necessarily need that, but you just need to have the confidence to present your idea and to defend, the reasons for it, in a discussion, and have the confidence to speak up.
Absolutely right. I mean, it just brought me back to yesterday. Well, actually, 2 days ago, I had the opportunity to interview, not interview, but to be a panelist and to
Okay.
encourage amazing women leaders at one of our local chambers here. And the essence of the whole message or the session is really that people really don't know their true capabilities, and they don't recognize their worth, their
Yes.
self. And so everything really, when I studied, it's like everything starts with self-confidence and self-worth,
Yep.
self-esteem. And nobody
Yep.
can give that to you. And you're doing I should say, a very challenging type of job and
Yeah.
numbers. And no women, and we as women leaders, every single job application, job description, you look to see if every single bullet you satisfy before you go forward. Same thing. So,
Yes. Yes. Women definitely have the tendency to do that. And I forget what those particular statistics are, but like men apply for jobs where they meet like 60% of the criteria, whereas women only apply for jobs where they meet 100 or even more of those criteria. So
yes, and
um,
yeah,
yeah,
and I
and then
just
it's
want to go back.
always
Yeah, go ahead, go
women
ahead.
are always judged on their what they have already achieved, whereas men are always judged on their potential.
Potential.
Yeah.
Brilliantly said.
Yeah.
And that is very, very accurate. And
Yes.
so it's unfortunate because really at the end of the day, if you go in knowing everything, then there's no opportunity for growth. And so where's
Exactly.
that growth mindset that we talk about? We don't want to have a fixed mindset, we want to have a growth mindset. But if you don't give yourself an opportunity to grow,
That is true.
in
But
a new
the mindset that you need is not that I know everything, but it's that I know how to figure things out. Right? It's that resourcefulness and that ability to learn. And so acknowledging where you might have gaps in your skill set. You know, I come to the chief financial officer role from a more strategic finance side. I'm not an accountant. And so, I recognize that, I may not know the nuances of every, accounting standard, and so, but also having that knowledge that like I know who to go to and where to go to find that knowledge and to figure it out. And I think that's where when it comes to that emotional resiliency, to be able to walk in and to do a job that where you don't meet like 100% of the criteria, you at least have the mindset and the capability to grow and to figure out what needs to happen to take it to the next level.
Absolutely well, brilliantly said. So let's just go back a little bit, just the foundation and really what resilience is. What does resilience mean to you as a leader? Like if you have
Uh,
to define it.
what does it mean, resilience? I mean, from a personal perspective, it's the ability and the desire to show up every day and to keep growing and to keep learning. Right? Because I mean, I guess that's my kind of
Yeah.
what makes me excited is to continually grow and learn. But that resiliency, if you stop showing up, you stop learning, and so you don't really develop that resiliency if you kind of you check out early or take yourself out of the conversation at an earlier stage. And so it's yeah, developing that confidence and that desire to continue to like have a seat at the table.
Yes, absolutely. And you did hit home on a key point there, right? Being able to look at adversities, sorry, as opportunities and convert everything into lessons, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Moments can be very painful, but that is a key part. But resiliency, to me, is really about overcoming those setbacks and
Oh
those
yeah,
challenges, those hardships on the
yeah,
journey, both personally and professionally, because we're a human element. We have both, right?
yes, we do.
We may be able to just, put boundaries on them, but we're human. And so we have that, and then of course being able to bounce
Yes.
from those adversities because you're not at the same state because you had circumstances. So it's not the same
Correct.
condition you're dealing with. So but bounce forward and being able to thrive and
Correct.
be passionate to what you're doing and have joy. And it seems as though you do that really well. You
I do my
very
best.
much, you seem very much like a settled leader who is very confident in terms of their capabilities. And it's really an honor to showcase you so that
Thank
others
you.
can see what confidence is like, what competent is like,
Yep.
and really how to shine.
Thank Thank you.
So, yeah, so I just wanna just ask, not just a follow-up question, really. What are the specific strategies